My fellow Americans, I know you believe in freedom, but do you believe in fate? Hi, I'm Kristen, and this is a Cosmic Coven podcast, a place for pop culture, the planets, and our endless curiosities. You are very welcome here. So if you're searching for answers and you're still raging on Reddit and going to work and going about your day, trying to have a normal life despite all of this crazy stuff going on, then you're in the right place. So my friends, let's recap. Astrology is pattern recognition. Pattern recognition. Tell your friends. Astrology is as real as the rock that we're spinning on in outer space. Yeah, this one, the one we know virtually nothing about in a universe that's endlessly expanding. Meeting this moment is going to require that we zoom out, and we're going to need a paradigm shift. As a country, as a human race, paradigm shifts are weird, new realities are bizarre, but this is the world we're living in. For thousands of years, humans looked up, they took notes, they looked around, and they took notes. And this was globally. Africa to Persia, India to Ireland, Greece, China, the Americas. Same sky, same cycles, same archetypes, same energy, simultaneous events. As above, so below. If that seems too out there, let's turn to America's favorite book, the Bible. I think it's safe to say that most of us know the story of the three wise men who were crossing the desert before they got to the manger. But who were they? Really? They were the Magi. They were priest scholars, astronomers, astrologers. They followed the stars because they knew that the sky held the map to the most important event on Earth to them. They caught that celestial signal. They packed great gifts. They showed up prepared. He's here. Write this down. In episode 1, we talked a lot about this spiral, right? The clockwork of America's quill pen spell, our Declaration of Independence, our Colonial vision board, the destiny we manifested. A declaration is just words without the electricity, without the magic behind it. And a clock can only tick if there's power behind it. Otherwise, it's just once upon a time. So if you're feeling like, did we just switch realities? Kind of, yeah. Your antenna's picking up on something very real. Like these frequencies are the ones that spark history. If it feels like every historical cycle is happening all at once, this is timeline vertigo. But let's think about it in this way. So first, Pluto and Aquarius, this is the subbase. This is what's shaking the world, shaking up all of these revolutions at once. And this is 20 years. And next is Saturn and Aries. This one is going to hit us on an individual level. This is like this solo kick drum. Like, get up, join the group, let's make some history. And this is only a 2-year window, but this is the one that you're really going to feel. Lastly comes Uranus and Gemini. And this is going to be like our sound system. This is the way that our message is going to be getting out there for the next 7 years. When this happens in Gemini, this is like the most unpredictable communication messaging that we've ever had. So Pluto shakes the ground, Saturn gets us up off the couch, and Uranus gets our message out there. So when we think of the founders, generally we're thinking of like 20, 30-somethings running around in wigs, yelling about liberty. But Franklin was the outlier. Benjamin Franklin, our original cosmic consultant. He was 70 years old when the Declaration was signed. He was the elder, he was the sage, the Yoda. He was a Capricorn sun. He was grounded, he was practical, he was one of the architects. But his emotional safety was found in the future. Benjamin Franklin wasn't flying kites because he had a low threshold for fun. He was chasing electricity. He was literally pulling future technology down from the sky to invent. And he did. He invented the lightning rod to prevent house fires. Saving structures, very Capricorn, very Saturn. So Franklin and his crew of enlightened misfits were obsessed with the clockwork of the heavens. But outwardly, they were men of reason, capital R, reason. I mean, they were much more interested in shaking humanity from the ties that bound them to dogmatic religion than anything else, really. So the last thing they were trying to do was create a cult, but they were co-creating with the universe, and we have proof of this. Franklin was famous for these almanacs that he put out every year, which were a mix of like comedy, sketches, astrology, weather predictions, things like that. And Franklin was really good at using humor to differentiate astronomical events with astrological predictions because, well, one, he needed to protect himself. And two, this was like puritanical America. I don't think they like mysticism very much. He'd write things like, I shall not say much of the signification of the eclipses this year, for in truth, they do not signify much. But in the following year, 1736, there will be 6 eclipses, which portend great revolutions in Europe. It was a joke, and it wasn't. He knew that you literally couldn't predict if you'd find a gold shilling on a Tuesday, but he knew for a fact that the Earth was not operating independently from the sky that housed it. Franklin wanted to take the omen out of the sky and replace it with more of like an instruction manual. And then he used his almanacs, which were very funny for the time, to bring knowledge to the people so they could rely on expertise outside of the church. He also built the postal service. The man was wild. Franklin understood the power and the frequency of lightning. So this is what I'm talking about when we're talking about the current currently running through our society. It's lightning. It's that vibe. That's Aquarius. That's Uranus. That's that energy. And now it's back for the first time since 1777. This is the last time that Pluto was just about to enter Aquarius. This is when the British crown was getting like bitchy. They were basically cutting the power off to the colonies, taking from the colonies. The colonies were just enriching the British Empire, but in return, they were getting taxed and they had no voice. Don't get any ideas. And America was like, that's enough. And meanwhile, the colonists were doing the exact same thing to the Native Americans. They were forcing them to relinquish control, forcing them into submission. And perspective is interesting, right? Our patriots would probably be called crisis actors. What all of these eras and cultures share is the same fracture point. This is a total misalignment between the people in charge and the soul of the people. And this is happening on every level, everywhere. Okay, so we have Pluto in Aquarius. And considering this cabinet is acting like a full-blown wrestling dynasty, consider this America's WrestleMania. We know Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, right? And Uranus is the planet of shock, surprise, what just happened energy. We have no choice but to trust it, and the magic that always follows. Aquarius, Uranus, same energy, same vibe. Pluto is the implacable. This is the god that cannot be charmed, cannot be bribed, will not turn around, is here to do his thing. But right now, Aquarius is dropping this wild live wire into Pluto's subterranean trench. This is a Molotov cocktail from the cosmos and releases all of this stuff we refuse to look at or we didn't even know was down there, like what the hell is going on in our systems and who the hell are our leaders? What is this? Pluto hoards the country's shame, the country's secrets, the wealth, the primal power that we pretend we don't have. And then Aquarius brings it all to the surface. Pluto in Aquarius demands, get the F up and do something about the inequalities and injustices, or there will be no future. Electrified Pluto kicks the hive. That's when you get a swarm, the bees, the misfits, the outsiders, the rebels. This is the exact recipe for revolution. And think about this. I know we give a lot of credit to our forefathers, but let's be real, they were the architects. The real revolution began as a feeling. It started in taverns, on docks, in these conversations from people who were exhausted, they were feeling cornered, they were feeling fed up, they couldn't tolerate another day of this corrupt system. These moments in history really start with the storytellers, the information accelerators. It was these young people with their printing presses in basements. They spread information. The medium is going to be different, obviously, from generation to generation, but same vibe. And then we get the frontline agitators, the nurses, the people who take care of us, and the government just refusing to acknowledge their professional degrees. It's like ridiculous. And remember, these were the people who were the essential workers, and now they're treating them like disposable workers. When this starts to crop up in little communities, nursing being one of them, maybe one of the first in this is a start of when individual groups start saying, we're not going to take this anymore. And that's how it begins. This is a swarm. This is Pluto in Aquarius. This is the mirror of the moment that we're standing in right now. It's Boston in 1777. It's the streets of Iran. It's the streets of Minnesota. It's the LA mayoral race. This is synchronized cosmic activation. And the universe arrives on time. Always. We've seen Uranus and Aquarius energy play out in cultural climates. I think we get the vibe here. But how does that look when it comes to a person? These Aquarian leaders, they don't show up when things are copacetic. No. They arrive when the country is on the brink of something unbelievable, something unpredictable, because the energy is that crazy. Enter the Aquarian president. Aquarius presidents are the disruptors. They're the system breakers, the visionaries, which brings us to perhaps our most famous Aquarian president, Abraham Lincoln, born February 12th. He was an Aquarius sun with an unrelenting, uncompromising Capricorn moon. Lincoln is the ultimate Aquarian paradox, uniting a country by tearing it apart. Paradox. So Lincoln governed during a period that was probably the most unhinged division in our history. Half the country was literally threatening to leave, and he pulled it off. Lincoln is such a great example of a leader that was able to zoom out, a little bit detached, very future-minded. That's really what's needed sometimes to navigate our darkest chapters. Teleporting to the 20th century, we get our next Aquarian superstar, Franklin D. Roosevelt. Franklin. Who else was Franklin? Patterns are everywhere, my friends. Do you hear them? I don't know what the significance is yet. It doesn't matter. But we must make note of things that repeat. So I looked it up. And Franklin literally means free man. So how do you like that? So our beloved FDR, born January 30th. FDR's genius really came alive during the Great Depression because he was the architect of the collective. He's the one who put the Eye of Providence on our dollar bill and encoded it as a portable prayer. The New Deal was the Aquarian blueprint for survival. It was a design for how we make it through together, how we reinvigorate the nation financially and energetically so that everyone has the chance to prosper. And lastly, we have the ultimate Hollywood to Washington crossover, Ronald Reagan, born February 6th. The GOP's GOAT was famously practicing astrology. His personal astrologer, Joan Quigley, was so essential to his inner circle that she was basically his mystical Secretary of State. And she timed absolutely everything: diplomacy, Air Force One takeoffs, meetings, dinners. And then we get the Challenger disaster in '86. This was the biggest television event of a decade. And a rocket, which is the ultimate Aquarian sign of progress, just burst into flames. A country completely traumatized, and many of them were students watching this live in classrooms. Can you imagine? Reagan stepped up in this moment and was able to do that Aquarian thing where they intellectualized grief. And he talked about slipping the surly bonds of Earth to touch the face of God. A freak accident as cosmic evolution. Like every sign, Aquarius has a shadow. There is a spectrum. Brilliance and blind spots. Vision and detachment. The future, always bright. But is it evenly distributed? None of these men were perfect by any means, but they were perfectly Aquarian. They were the water bearers for the crisis at hand, and they showed up when the country needed to move forward. Let's talk about the eclipse series that are happening, because eclipses are these cosmic bookends for whatever karmic lesson the collective needs to all learn at the same time. And it's back because we probably didn't learn the lesson the first time. Energetically, just think of pinball. Like suddenly the machine shakes, the lights flash, the ball's going 5 times faster than it did 10 seconds ago, but you get 10 times the points. The portal's open for only a few seconds. The stakes higher, the rewards bigger. You didn't change the game, but you definitely just activated it. That's an eclipse. So for the past 6 years, we Earthlings have been witnessing and experiencing the Virgo-Pisces axis. Virgo, Pisces, 6 signs away on the wheel. That's how they always work. Virgo and Pisces have very different energetic signatures. Virgo is that meticulous part of us. It wants a color-coded guide to success. It's obsessed with the how. It wants the facts, the figures, the turn-by-turn directions, the exact ETA for when we're out of this shit show. Pisces is the realm of the unconscious, of dreams, of illusions, of soul states. It's that ocean of pure emotion, vibrations. Pisces surrenders to the flow. The veil is thinnest for Pisces because they're the last sign of the zodiac before we start life all over again with Aries. It's why they're so psychic, and it's why all of our intuitions are officially online. So if you're starting to feel a little psychic, you're not losing it. You probably really are getting downloads from the ethers. That's our shared mission, and ours is to get a little woo-woo. Why don't ya? And it's a big ask. We're supposed to trust unseen energetic forces when we can't even trust the people in charge? Yes, that's exactly it. It's asking us to tune out the negativity sparingly and tune into our intuition, to trust the current, and to realize finally that we can't logic our way out of a spiritual crisis. And meanwhile, the South Node is in Virgo, and that's the energy, not the people, the energy we're being asked to leave behind. This is the obsession with the fine print. It's the micromanaging of all of these things that we can't control, and that desperate belief that if we find one more fact, or work one more hour, or read one more Reddit thread, that the GPS will somehow reroute. Spoiler alert, it won't. Endlessly dissecting every word from fundamentally unaccountable leaders is an absolute waste of time. And that's the point. Distraction. It's in the frequency. Energy does not lie. So for the past couple of years, we have really been in that tug of war between I surrender, I can't take another day of this, and I need to know every single detail. So you're not imagining it. So going in cosmic order, we get the next pairing, the Aquarius-Leo axis. Just know this is going to be a big one for the emotional heart of the nation. This eclipse axis is the people, Aquarius, and the king, Leo. And this will be making cameos throughout next summer. And here's where it gets really wild. This is the same exact frequency, same exact eclipse partners, Leo and Aquarius, that the founders were tuning into in 1777. The eclipses they for sure knew about. They write about them all the time. These are the same exact ingredients that we're working with. So Aquarius is the collective, the people, the network, the hive. And Leo is the authority, the throne, sometimes gold-plated. But really, at the end of the day, it's family, it's the pride, it's heart-led leadership. So we're going to have two overlapping karmic lessons here. This year, the North Node is moving into Aquarius, which means that in order for us to learn our collective karmic lesson, we have to look to the energy of Aquarius. But we can't ignore Leo. We love Leo leaders. We love that sort of heart-led leadership, that courage, the star power, the charisma. I want to be really clear here that a Leo-Aquarius eclipse axis does not literally mean like overthrowing the government. That's not what it means at all. It shows up in a lot of different energies, macro to micro, big and small. And if we want to look at how this shows up during these times, we can turn to Abigail Adams, John Adams' wife. She was his most trusted advisor. She probably is responsible for a lot more than we give her credit for. In March of 1776, she sent probably her most famous letter that was warning that if the new laws didn't include women, the collective, then we weren't creating liberty. It was just rebranding the bondage. This was a new flavor of the same old tyranny. So the dance of the Leo and Aquarius eclipses can come in the form of just calling out the inequity in the room. You can't claim to represent the people while legally ignoring half of them. It's just a myth. And she was right to worry. There's a pattern of this country spinning myths. Take Lizzie Magi, a Taurus born May 9th. She invented the game of Monopoly in 1909. And Lizzie was a feminist. She was like on the front line. She was a total cultural disruptor. She was in the headlines often. And she was the daughter of abolitionists who traveled with Abraham Lincoln on the campaign trail. Patterns. So Lizzie, with all of her Taurian sensibilities, invented this game as a way to protest monopolies, to show how one person winning means everyone else loses. And it was a super popular game for years among really progressive circles, especially the Quakers. Shout out to the Quakers. And what happened? Her game was stolen by Charles Darrow, a con man who learned the game from his Quaker friends. It was rebranded, it was reboxed, and it was sold by this guy who peddled this like Depression era down on his luck, struck with this genius idea to feed his family. Total bullshit. And worse, he twisted the soul of it. He turned the monopolizer into the winner of a game that was originally designed to benefit the collective. Cha-ching! Monopoly, the most popular game in the world. Game over, you jerks. Because we're moving into an era where people like Melinda French Gates or Mackenzie Scott, these women who helped build these massive empires, realize that hoarding the wealth is not the power move. Returning it to the collective is. So this is the shift from my kingdom to our community. Same thing, same vibe as this eclipse axis. Leo is the star, it's the visibility, ruled by the sun. It's the person whose name is on the door, And Aquarius, always watching, always observing, clocking authenticity, the inconsistencies. Aquarius has zero tolerance for egos without substance. And when Aquarius is done with the show, it just disengages. It reorganizes, it finds a new source of info, while the leader is still like standing there at the podium, like, where is everybody? Leadership without a collective is just a figurehead shouting into the void, like I'm doing now. And a collective without leadership is a hive that's lost its way. So we need to work together. The cosmic weather is about to change in a way that we have never seen in our lifetime. This is a spiritual crisis, if I've ever seen one. And it really feels like we're in this battle between good and evil. I know that sounds really dramatic, but this is what it is. And I really think that Saturn in Aries is sort of that fog lifting us out of Saturn in Pisces. Saturn in Pisces is when everything that sort of felt permanent and sacred in our worlds began to dissolve. This is us moving out of the era of like, what is happening, to I'm making this happen. We were floating. Now we're fighting. This is a call to action in every corner of our day, of every aspect of our life, and every community we're a part of, big and small. Aries is I am, me first. This transit is a cosmic invitation to step out of the shadows, out of the collective, and step into your light, your voice, your unique contribution to society. We need you. And this is when, I think, the algorithms will have a lot less power than we've given them in the past. This is when the strongest, most authentic content is getting to you because the light is finally on. And there might be some cleaning up to do, but we finally have the energies, we have the tools, we have the clarity to move forward. For the next 2 years, the individual voice is the weapon. We don't need redacted files when we'll get it straight from the fire horse's mouth. And speaking of horses, let's spiral back to the American Revolution, where we meet Sybil Ludington, a 16-year-old Aries sun born April 5th. Sybil did not sit around and wait to be told what to do. On a rainy night in April 1777, this is when Pluto is making its first moves into Aquarius, Sybil rode 40 miles, this is pitch black, middle of the night, on horseback through such a wild and catastrophic storm to go rouse the militia. So at that time, the British were busy burning Danbury, which was the Continental Army's main supply hub. So if the Patriots didn't move, if they weren't alerted by Sybil, that could have been the end of it. The revolution could have been starved. America as we know it, non-existent. Okay, so spiraling back to our present day, if staunch Saturn in this dreamy, untethered, Pisces vibe was like building a house on quicksand, then Saturn in Aries is changing its mind, jumping in the car, slamming on the gas. Saturn's engine starts overheating. This is gear grinding, high friction energy. This is when the collective shifts from absolute depletion, exhaustion, into mobilization. Saturn in Aries jumps aboard, grabs the steering wheel, and gets us back on course. This is the energy of 1967 to 1969. Ugh, major. This is one of the last times that our disciplined daddy Saturn snapped us out of our groovy trip and told us to get angry because a lot's been going on. It's that energy that took that peace, that free love era into the Black Power movement. This is MLK moving from I have a dream to I'm calling out the war machine in his 1967 Riverside speech. It's the raw defiance of Timmy Smith and John Carlos at the '68 Olympics, raised fists, that commanded the world's attention while the national anthem played. It's Jim Morrison on Ed Sullivan, warned not to sing the word higher and doing it anyway, live, looking right into the lens, because Saturn in Aries does not give an F. A network is only as strong as the current that runs through it. And that brings us straight into the next player entering the chat. Uranus in Gemini. This is coming in April. The most unpredictable transit you could imagine. Just think of the collective mind as a massive radio. And for the last 7 years, we've been tuned into one station. In April, we're tuning into a whole new station. So we know that Uranus is a planet of the like, are you serious? Like, what just happened? Energy. Gemini is the sign of the mind. It's the message. It's the twin forces. Uranus is staying for 7 years in Gemini, and it will radically change the way that we speak, the way that we connect, and the method that we get our messages through. So remember, Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Mercury, Gemini, same vibe. Mercury is the messenger of the gods. He's the one with this all-access pass from like Olympus down to the underworld, and he's just flirting along the way. Gemini is a social butterfly of the zodiac. It has that teenager energy. It's the wordsmith, the trickster, the one who's delivering the divine messages, but might wrap it in a riddle or a joke or a deep fake just to see if you're actually paying attention. And sometimes he just does it to get a reaction. Trump is a Gemini, by the way. So when you take Uranus, this wild, unpredictable spark, and you plug it into Gemini's energy, the frequency goes absolutely haywire. So we're talking coded language, shocking messages, whistleblowers, and information that spreads so fast, it's like trying to catch lightning in a bottle. We're already on to the next. And we have to look at the pattern here. America's massive, era-defining wars have all been fought while Uranus was in Gemini. Uranus spends 7 years in each sign, and it was in Gemini during the American Revolution, the Civil War, World War II, and now. But before we get too crazy, there's absolutely no reason to believe that Uranus in Gemini is a sign that war is coming. It's not, but it definitely plays a role in the way that a war is fought. Gemini ensures that these wars, big and small, metaphorical, at home, in the PTA meetings, will be won through words and tricky decoys. So think of Mercury like zipping away while the enemy is still looking around his last known location. So let's look at how Uranus and Gemini showed up in these different eras so that we can identify it when it comes through in just a couple months. So during the 1770s, messages were delivered via viral pamphlets like Thomas Paine's Common Sense. So just picture neighbors passing papers and shadows hand to hand. That is Mercury at work. War plans through whispers and invisible ink. And Uranus, the internet network of the day. And then during the Civil War in the 1860s, Mercury's wings turned to copper wire, the telegraph. And what's so crazy is that this is the first time in human history that information is traveling faster than a horse. Let's look at Uranus and Gemini in the 1940s. This is when we got the code breakers. Alan Turing and his team out-tricked the trickster. They cracked the enigma, and they won the war with data. But we absolutely cannot talk about the 1940s Code War without talking about Hedy Lamarr. Most people remember Hedy Lamarr as this beautiful silver screen icon. She was a Hollywood starlet, but Hedy was one of our secret architects. She was a self-taught inventor who spent her nights tinkering with radio frequencies while the rest of Hollywood was at the after party. She realized that the Nazis were jamming radio-controlled torpedoes, so she invented frequency hopping. She cracked the code to make a radio signal skip around so that the enemy could never lock in. She literally handed the Navy a secret communication system. They didn't use it then. They told her to go sell war bonds. But Hedy's secret invention eventually became the DNA to our Bluetooth and our Wi-Fi. Our Bluetooth and our Wi-Fi. Hedy Lamarr. Tell your friends. If the Declaration of Independence was a spell, and it was, then the 200-year message just dinged, and it's waiting for America's shared Sagittarius rising, our own inherent fire horse, to answer the call, to kick up some fairy dust, and make some magic for good. If this episode sparks something in you, tell your friends. Activate the airwaves. Like, share, subscribe, leave a review. That's an easy and free way to help the show grow. If you're interested in getting a personal astrology reading or you want to gift one for a friend, reach out. Links are in the show notes. Stay cool, stay weird, stay sharp, my cosmic coven. I'll see you in the future.